I was talking about this with someone the other day. Don't have kids, but a 529 plan. You guys want to explain a little bit about that? Like what that all entails and how it works?
I'm going to tell you, just this is not me for my advice. Have someone else do it for you. Because when you try to do it yourself, you have the ability to do it by yourself, but time gets away from you and you forget.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and stuff like that. But my advice is have someone that's educated and do it for you.
Helps
because
you
at least you know it'll get done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And stuff. Now you guys roll
So
with
I'll
it.
start, and then Spencer will be the finisher.
He's
as
the
usual.
closer every
He's the
closer.
closer. So a 529 plan is just a specialized account to save for college savings. You actually can't start it until you have a child because it has to have the child's social security number attached to it as the beneficiary. So particularly in Indiana, it makes sense to use a 529 because different states have different tax benefits, and Indiana has one of the best of all 50 states tax benefits for contributing to a 529. So you get a 20% Indiana state tax credit, which is more beneficial than a deduction. For every dollar you contribute up to the maximum of a $7,500 contribution will get you a $1,500 Indiana state tax credit. So you put $7,500 in for your child to go to college, and you immediately, within a year, get $1,500 back from the state of Indiana. So that's number one. Number two is that it's a tax-free growth investment. So similar to an IRA, all of the investment activity that happens in there over that period of time comes out tax-free as long as you use it for college. So tuition, room and board.
And they've expanded that list
Books
a little
and
bit,
supplies,
right? I mean,
yes.
of what it can, because
Yes.
it was just directly tuition.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's tuition, room and board, books, supplies, and even a computer now you can use 529 plans for. So they've also made them more flexible on the back end. I'll leave that for Spencer to explain. But it's a nice way to compartmentalize. This is for my child's college. Get a tax benefit now when you contribute and get tax deferred growth.
So if you know you're going to be paying or helping assist your child, it makes complete
sense to do it.
To
Yeah.
roll with it as
Yeah.
soon as you can.
And
I
it
would
does
say.
not have to be your child. I'll tell a little story, actually. For our godson, when he was born, we decided we were going to start a 529, and we just set it up on an automatic thing. I think it was $50 a month, maybe $100 at the very most a month from the time he was born. And we gave him, for his graduation present from high school, this money to use, which essentially paid a semester of his college.
Wow.
So that was pretty
adds
cool.
up.
That is cool.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think Angie touched on the good details of 529, but why save for college would be another question. And, you know, if you haven't checked tuition prices lately, they're not going down.
And I don't think the whole free thing's going to happen.
It doesn't
work
look
in
like-
society. I mean,
doesn't look
honestly,
like that's
free.
happening,
There's
but-
nothing free. At some
Yeah.
point, someone has to pay for it. So that will be a crumbling model at some point.
And we have seen a lot of messes when it comes to student loans. And student loans is, I mean, they're one of those things that they're not going away. They're one of the types of debt that does not go away regardless of what happens. So obviously you want to avoid that by going with the 529 route, starting young, and on the back end, you know, using the money for education. Like Angie said, it's 100% tax free. So whatever that money grows and accumulates over time, it's 100% tax free, which is a great
That's
benefit.
huge.
Yeah. It's the way I kind of think of it. It's kind of like a Roth IRA, but for saving for education. So yeah, 529s, we're obviously big advocates of that. If you know your child or think college might be in the picture.
Or even like you were saying, like a godchild or something like
Or a
that. You know,
grandchild.
anyone.
Yeah.
You can do them for anyone.
Absolutely.
Just has to be a number tied to it.
And one of the things they made more flexible on the back end just recently is that if there's any funds left in the 529, there always has been the ability to change it to another child. So if you have 3 children, you can have one 529 and just change it from kid to kid to kid. But also, if there's any funds left in the 529 at the end of all of your kids' college, you can turn it into a Roth IRA for the child.
Oh, that's
So
really, wow.
That is really cool.
Yeah, that's big too. Mm-hmm. That's big. So
has this been growing in recent years? Like, do you see it more now that people are, I guess, getting more educated in this kind of financial sector?
Yes,
definitely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
what's too early to invest?
For college?
Anything?
For college, the day that kid is born, get a 529 started is what I would say. Even if it's just a small amount. I mean, even if you can't do a large amount. Yeah. Even if you can't max it, just get consistent with it. Pay your cell phone bill, pay your kid's college along the way, right? And then same for any other type of investing. I mean, the sooner you get it started, the more compound investment growth you have.
Yeah, and what's cool too is not just parents can contribute. Let's say you start it for your child, grandparents, aunts and uncles, they can contribute to it too.
Now, there is no max per account that would be there, right?
There is, but it's super high. It's like
Okay.
$100,000 a year or something like that.
But like I can contribute $7,500 and retain that 20%. But then someone else could do the same off that same account number.
Exactly.
Per se.
As long as they live in the state of Indiana.
Yep. And your 20% tax credit, just so my clarification of thinking here, basically a tax credit is like you never made that money to start with. You don't get taxed on it, period, being a credit, correct?
Well, it's actually, you're describing a deduction. So this is if you've paid in $1,500 in Indiana state taxes, which most people that have a regular job do, you get $1,500 back at tax time.
Gotcha. Okay. So just that's a little bit, like I said, I rely on other people for that side of things, and that's why I recommend other people do. We tried to manage our own for our kids growing up, over the years here and stuff. And there's so many times you forget, and it's like, oh man, I forgot to do it last year. Well, we'll do it this year, and then soon enough, it's just like, hey, stay in your lane.
Yeah, it's
do
that
what
time of year
do what
where
you're good
we're
at.
calling up our clients that haven't contribute for the year and say, hey,
And that's what you need. I mean, that's what you need. That's that missing piece. That's
keep
the
them
hey.
on track. Yep.
Yeah, we pay attention to this every day, and we're going through our files here. And have you guys done this yet? You need to make sure you're planning on this and stuff.
Have interest rates changed any kind of strategies for people, and then I guess the way you guys approach things?
Interest rates have caused people to hold on to their cash, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it also means that they're more reluctant to invest for the long-term future. So if I can sit and get over 5% on my cash, which you can now, it's really hard to justify putting money into the stock market and taking that risk, which is causing people to not go ahead and allocate for the longer term. They just want to sit and hold on to their cash and pick up that no risk 5%.
Yep. And 5% is great. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to complain about that, especially with what we've seen the last 10 to 12 years. But S&P 500 is up 20% year to date. So it's kind of hard to, 5% is good, but if you're saving for the long term.
Look at inflation. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you call, I'm going to get 5%, but then you go over our cost of living between this time last year and the year before that, it's a scary number. I know I've seen it, but I don't remember it. You guys may have that remembered. But 5% doesn't cover that. I would be safe in saying 5% does not cover that. Mm-hmm. Fuel's up more than 5% than it was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So 5% sounds good, but yet when you put it in the big picture of, well, it's probably not what you think it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one other thing is I don't want to sit here and trash money markets or CDs. It definitely if you have extra cash in your savings account, it's a fantastic place to put that extra cash and get it working for yourself.
So that brings up an interesting thing that's probably not on any of our notes. How would you advise someone to structure, from a planning standpoint, their financial portfolio? I got a checking account, and I've got a checking account here. I've got one. What kind of messes do people get into, or is there a structure? You're hey, you guys need a checking account. You need to keep a rainy day account, and then you need to have a money market, or does that vary from business to individual, or is that kind of
It absolutely.
Did I formulate a question in there somewhere?
I'll come up with one.
Okay.
It absolutely is different for individuals and businesses. But I will say one thing that I always emphasize is simplify. Keep it simple if you can. Now, sometimes it makes sense or you need to have more than one checking account. But a lot of times you don't. You just have them because you had one in the past and you didn't close it and you opened a new one, and it gets harder to have efficiencies with your money if it's spread across more places than it really needs to be. So I always kind of preach just simplify and consolidate whenever possible.
Yep. And finding what works for you, because again, not everybody's playing the same game. So finding what works for you is a big thing. And I think you're kind of going into the route of an emergency fund too. That's something Angie and I cannot stress more the importance of, is having an emergency fund.
What time frame should that emergency fund pull you through on a personal aspect?
Yeah, everybody's different with that. If you look up online, how much should my emergency fund be? Like, probably the most generic answers you'll get is between 3 and 6 months worth of your expenses. So a lot of times that's typically what we recommend, is if you know how much you spend, keep at least 3 to 6 months.
How many people know how much they spend?
Exactly. That's the big thing. Yeah.
That's actually one of the things Spencer and I were talking about, is that a lot of times when we're starting a new relationship with someone, we'll ask them some of these basic questions. What's your income? What's your expenses? You'd be surprised how many people don't know what they actually make. Yeah. How much do you make in a year? I don't know.
So you're gonna laugh at me. You're looking at, and some people enjoy that fact, right? We have, my wife takes care of all of our personal stuff, and I think anybody that knows me probably knows that. And Angie knew this sitting across the table from me, right? Some people get bogged down with that personally, right? And stuff like that. Like, that is something that just bogs me down. So having someone know that, at least someone within your team, whether your relationship's something, educated within that aspect is important. Saying, hey, make sure you're...
Yeah. Most basic place to start with finance, know how much you make and know how much you spend. That's number one place to start. If you're looking for a starting place, your finances are a mess, you've never even don't know anything about it, just know how much you make and know how much you spend. That's one of the best places to start.
Can't spell checkbook, let alone balance a checkbook, right?
Yeah, and who the worst is at knowing, how much they make and spend? It's our federal government. They don't know, and I'm not getting into politics, but
that's a prime example of people, possibly taking and looking for advice and for, don't look there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't look there. But you can spend more than you ever have in that situation, and it doesn't matter. Well, it matters for
knowing how much you spend and knowing how much you make is the first place to start. So
now, simple strategy for that. Like, personally, now that I'm out of school, I haven't been as good as tracking my spending as I should be. What can I do? Like, do you guys keep receipts? Obviously, you can do that, but then after a while, you're like, oh my God, I got so many papers and whatnot. Yeah. Are there any other ways other than looking at your bank account or just staying on top of it?
If it takes looking at it every single day and adding up your expenses for the day, then that's what it takes.
There's also, like, the technology has come a long way. A lot of banks, you can run either your bank account or your credit card at the end of the year, and it'll allocate it. This is how much you spent on food. This is how much. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. So if nothing else, at least try and do a little bit of analysis that way. You can always go back to the old Excel spreadsheet, type thing, or there are budgeting apps that you can use as well that are pretty easy to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool. A lot of these, a lot of your banks have developed really good, and there's some misallocation within as far as what that debit was off the account, but majority of the time it's going to give you a good overall picture of, man, I'm spending way too much in entertainment, or maybe you're not, maybe you're okay with it, but it does open your eyes to what that would be. So, but if you're like me, in my ignorance, I enjoy my ignorance when it comes to that side of things. I like to get the overview of it, and I like to, have the sit downs and understand that I'm on a road, that I want to be on, and but the day-to-day details, I'm glad I don't burden myself with that. So yeah. What the cash, right? And you have this investment, and I want to go buy some land. I've been down this road, right? And I have my own personal thoughts on this. What are you guys' position on? Do you have a position on investing in land? And this kind of ties into our grower, and how do you liquidate that in the long term? Is it considered liquidable? Because most of the time those are emotional purchases, and the majority of the ground that is, I know we invested in a small bit and stuff like that when that was an emotional tie to it because it neighbored something else, and we just didn't want a bunch of houses built there because we didn't want to see that happen. But from a financial side point, that was a terrible investment. Like my return on that, all I'm doing is cash renting that out for farm ground. That's terrible investment type thing. What do you guys see?
When you're making any big purchase, whether it be land, a house, a car, one of the most important aspects of that is, what is your purchase price? So if you're overpaying from the beginning, it's going to be a bad investment. It's going to be hard to get your money out of that. So that's number one, is whatever you're buying it for, make sure it's really worth that amount in the long term. Nobody's going to argue that land isn't a good investment. I mean, land, real estate over time has been good investments. It's also not for everyone. So it is not considered to be a liquid asset. And so it's not for everyone. Not everybody wants to manage rental properties or farmland. But certainly over a period of time, for the right person, it can be a good investment.
And we kind of touched on that last episode too that we filmed, but the amount of time that you get the opportunity to even purchase land around here, I guess in general, is just so rare. So even
it may be one time. Like you probably don't see the same ground coming up for purchase, which I think drives its price higher and can falsely inflate.
Yep.
And stuff like that. That feeds that emotion, saying, "I'll never see this happen again. I'll never." Well, that doesn't mean it's worth it by the numbers.
Exactly.
Yep.
And stuff. So, let's see, guys. What else do we have here? That
you guys just got a new shop, right, or new office? How's that going? Is that
excellent? We've filled it out quite nicely. We have 3 Christmas trees up right now.
So the extra ones from the home ended up at the office. So I knew there was more. There was more.
No, we love it. It's perfect location, nice parking for clients at 101 South East Street. Share the parking lot with Langen Meats, used to be Neil's Chop Shop. Busiest intersection in Decatur County. We're right there.
7 blocks from my house, so I walk home from lunch, walk back.
There you go.
cool?
Wow.
Nice, yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep.
You walk home too?
Sometimes on the weekends I walk. To
Do you?
work. Yeah.
You won't catch me walking this winter though, so that's
You're a nice weather
Too
walker.
cold.
yeah.
So good. Well, is there anything else that we haven't covered, guys, that you thought we may hit on today and stuff like that? What any advice? Anything that's that we haven't? I mean, I feel like you guys are offering a very respectable service and doing it for the right reasons. It's not I'm offering this investment platform. I'm offering a service of helping you get to where you want to go.
Right.
And stuff like that. And that's what there's
Exactly.
a difference.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a lot of people don't know what we do, and that's exactly right. We provide advice. So any major decision or change in somebody's life, we want them to call us. Our good clients, they call us when they're getting married, when they're having a child, when their child's going to college, when they're changing jobs, when they're retiring, when their parents pass away, when, we're talking inheritances and passing assets along. So any major change in somebody's life is when they should be thinking, hey, I need some advice on this. How do I navigate this? What are the things? Because you don't know what you don't know. So
Right. Yeah. And that's something that sometimes somebody's already walked down that road and been burnt or learned from it. There's no reason for that same.
So someone fresh who just wants to learn and come in is the best way to just call you guys?
Yep.
Set up an appointment?
Absolutely. Go on the website, call us.
Talk to Sandy. She's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, we have a fantastic team behind us. So Sandy Wolter, client service manager, and Jenna Green, our business development specialist. So, that's how we do what we do best.
Well, we thank you.
Awesome.
We have enjoyed this.
Thank you guys for coming on. I think I learned a lot too, just from sitting here and listening. But yeah.
I see the calendar coming out right after.
I am setting up an appointment. But alrighty,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming, and hope you guys stay tuned for some more episodes.